we're going to go ahead and get started. So welcome to this week's CybHER Conversation. We're so excited to have you all here with us. I'll introduce our speaker in just a second. I am I'm not Kanthi, excuse me. We just said Kanthi's name. I wish I was Kanthi. I am Katie Shuck. I am CybHER's Chief of Strategy. And with me, we have Kanthi Narokonda, who is CybHER's Chief of Operations. We also have CybHER's co-founders, Dr. Ashley Podorodsky and Dr. Pam Rowland with us. I'll wait just one more second before I introduce our speaker. If you do have questions during today's conversation, feel free to ask them at any time. You can do that through the Q&A feature that you will find at the bottom of the screen. And without further ado, I am so excited to introduce Tanya Janca, who is also known as SheHacksPurple. Tanya is an author of Alice and Bob Learn Application Security. She is founder of SheHacksPurple, which is an online learning academy, community, and weekly podcast about creating secure software. And she is an all-around person for application security, she in DevOps. So she is an absolutely wonderful person. I've heard her speak before and cannot wait to hear her excite you all in everything security. And without further ado, I am going to hand it over to you, Tanya.
Thank you very, very much, Katie. Thank you all of you for having me here. I am going to share my screen and share a couple slides with you about ideally your career in application security as opposed to mine, if that makes sense. So you already have heard about me, so I'm a giant nerd. Let's start at the beginning of where I started. So I started as a software developer, and then I took computer science, and I was programming at different places, and I liked it a lot. But one day I discovered that I could break software, and I could figure out vulnerabilities, and I could do a different type of job, that I could kind of sit on the other side of the desk and look at how to protect everyone that's using software. And I got more and more interested as I learned more about it. And eventually I got so interested, I made it my full-time job. And I ran application security programs where I would help all the software developers where I work make secure software. And I'm hoping to talk to you today about your potential career in information security. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more. But first of all, I get to wear whatever I want to work. Working in tech means that you have a lot of flexibility compared to a lot of other fields. And I have to say, like, it's a really sweet deal. So Katie already told you a bit about me, but briefly, I've done lots of stuff. So I wrote a book. Whenever I go to like a party, which clearly in COVID right now I don't, but when people are like, what do you do for a living? I'm like, I'm a nerd on the internet. But how do you explain, oh, I stream and teach people lessons and build software and then I smash it. I have online courses that I give like live or on demand. I run a company that like builds content and runs a community and like basically just helps people succeed in their AppSec careers. It's like really hard to explain, like, yeah, I wrote a textbook, but I'm not a professor. Like, but it's okay because in tech, you can kind of make your own job. Basically, computer science is the youngest of all the sciences, and cybersecurity is a very, very fast growing area within computer science. That and artificial intelligence and machine learning are basically skyrocketing, and the number of jobs are limitless. So I'm now a CEO. And I have traveled the planet as part of basically speaking about security. So like I said, you can make your career whatever you want to. I started applying to conferences and I honestly started doing it because I was like, I can get in free then. If I speak at the conference, they'll let me in for free. And then I get to watch every other person's talk. And I started applying and applying. And before I knew it, I was presenting in Australia, in Asia, in Europe, in Africa, South America. I even got invited to present in Antarctica, but like on a ship outside of Antarctica, like not actually on the continent, because that's like apparently pretty intense. But, and then COVID happened and I couldn't go, boo. But basically like there's so much opportunity there, especially specifically in cyber, because unfortunately it just keeps growing and growing because security is not going well for a lot of companies. We are in the news for the wrong reasons quite often. And now that I'm a CEO and I run my own company, I get to spend time and money on causes that are really important to me. And so, for instance, trying to help attract women to my field is really important to me. And all of you are young women. So me and a few of my friends started a nonprofit that's international that's called WOSEC, Women of Security. And basically, I wanted to meet lots of other cool women. And before I knew it, we had chapters all over the world. And it turns out lots of women that work in security want to know other women. And whatever I can do and we can do to try to encourage more women to join our field, and especially people at your age where they could just start their career in information security, this is a big deal to us. So I started my own company, and it says we have 6 people, but we actually have 7 now. Since I made this slide, we hired someone 3 weeks ago and I forgot to update it. But yeah, that's so exciting to know that during COVID that I could give 6 people jobs because I'm number 7 or number 1 or however you want to look at it. But that's so exciting that I can give other people a livelihood. I don't know how to tell you how that feels, but I feel responsible for making sure everyone gets paid, but it's also amazing. These people want to follow me and do what my dream is. Another thing I want to tell you is that our field is changing. It is changing all the time. And people like you can help us decide what it's going to be. So right now, all of you, I remember when I was a teenager and I was trying to decide basically what I wanted to do with my life, which is really hard to decide when you're 16, 17, or 18, because that is a big decision. And I thought about all the different people in the classes that I had taken, and I was accepted. So I'm scholastically inclined. So I was accepted to every single place that I applied to. And then some universities wrote me and offered me applications, which was awesome, right? But I looked at all the different ones and I thought, you know what, the people I like the best are in my computer science class. And I love building stuff. I love making a piece of software that teaches people how to play guitar or tests math students. And I have to say that figuring out where I felt like I belonged and where I felt really satisfied, building things in tech still excites the crap out of me 22, 23 years later, or maybe 24, 25. I started programming in the early 90s. And so you, as a new cohort of people joining industry, get to help decide what it will be. Cybersecurity is so young. We are this years old. And we definitely could use a lot of bright young people with great ideas to help us make our industry actually work. Because right now, when you hear about cybersecurity in the news, it's almost always because something very bad has happened. I would like it one day where you don't hear about us unless it's a good thing. Or maybe you don't hear about us unless you're reading about new inventions or new tools and such. But right now, constantly the news is this awful thing happened, that awful thing happened. And so in my opinion, we're sort of losing the battle at this point. I really want to start winning, and we need every hand on deck to make that happen. So now I want to give you a couple of resources of things that might help you join tech and or join security. So I'm going to be super biased for a second and suggest my book. So I wrote a book about security, and it starts at the very, very beginning. So even with your level of knowledge now, you could read chapter 1 and chapter 9, 10, and 11. And then as you learn more, you could read the rest of the chapters because it eventually gets quite advanced, as lots of books do. But Alice and Bob Learn Application Security is named after the characters Alice and Bob, which started way back in the 70s when we invented encryption. And it's a long story, but basically security people always talk about Alice and Bob. If you decide you want to build software as part of your career, the DevOps Handbook, the Phoenix Project, Accelerate, and the Unicorn Project are amazing books, but specifically the Phoenix Project and the Unicorn Project are fictional fable stories. And so you could read them now. And it's just like a story about like, oh no, this happened and how can we do better? And it's about problem solving. And I'm an adult and I loved them. I couldn't get enough of those two books. And the Unicorn Project's hero of the book is a woman, and I love it. Her name's Maxine, and I kind of want to be Maxine when I grow up. The organization that I started with a couple of friends is called WOSEC, Women of Security, and you are not too young to join us. We have an online community. We have a strict code of conduct, so you have to behave yourself, but basically, we want to meet other women. We want to encourage girls and women to join our field, and it's pretty much a really good way to make friends and or like relationships. Or for instance, like one day when you're ready to do co-op, you could ask there and probably a bunch of women will try to snap you up to be their co-op student because it's so awesome to get to work with other women. Another thing I want to share with you is Cyber Mentoring Monday. So every single Monday on Twitter, I use this hashtag to pair people with professional mentors. We have had people that aren't yet in industry lots of times join us and say, hey, so, I'm a high school student and I want to do this. Sometimes their parents ask and they'll say like, I'm interested in learning this. And then people will recommend you books or send you links to blogs and stuff. You can just follow it to learn about different types of jobs if you want to. Some people just read it every week and they don't ever participate. But basically the purpose of it is to try to help people join our industry and learn. And so it is a free resource for you if you decide. All of the things except the books, because you have to buy books, are free that I'm mentioning. The last resource that I'm going to offer is me. So although my company creates paid professional training, I give away stuff for free all the time. I'm glad that I'm my own boss, so I can decide to give away as much as I want to. And so I share things on Twitter. I share things on my blog on dev.to. I have a YouTube channel where I share videos all the time. Like I read parts of my books out loud. I'll just stream me like building something or like, this is how you enable multi-factor authentication on this. And this is why you want to do it, etc. And the last link there is SheHacksPurple.ca, which is not very helpful. It's just links to all my social, but one day maybe I'll put something there. The point is there are there's so many free online resources of people that are trying to help. I share lots of them. I know lots of other people that share things. There's an entire industry and online community here that really, really wants you to join our field. Seriously. There are a couple people that are snarky grumps, but most of the people are really friendly and just dying to help. And if someone is snarky with you, generally people go, ignore that person. What do you need? Let me help. The industry has been so supportive. Like when I was switching fields, it was really amazing having all these different people in the community reach out to me and help me. And I could see the same for all of you. And with that, I want to thank you for not only like sitting through this 15-minute presentation, but for being a part of CybHER. I don't know if I said that right. Because like you're the future. One day, theoretically, I will stop working, maybe in 20 years, and I need you to take over. So please get ready, and thank you very much. And now, I think we probably have some questions that I'd like to answer. Is it okay if I just start answering questions?
I'll facilitate. The first question I have for you is my question, like from me. So you've worn many hats. You were a CISO, you were a founder, you worked as an AppSec engineer, and you worked as a software developer. So how did you manage to move from one role to the other seamlessly?
So once you have enough years of experience, and if you are confident enough when you say the thing, people tend to just go for it. So when I switched from software development to the CISO role, I switched first to the security team. And I remember one of the senior people saying like, you're gonna have to take a step down if you switch to security. And I'm like, really? Because I don't think I will. And so I just kind of had to wait for the right moment. And then I switched on to the security team. And then I was part of the federal government for Canada, and we have all these language rules, and I speak French really well. So I met a requirement. So they said, okay, well, let's just put Tanya in charge for a month so that we can like check this box on this legal regulation thing that we have to do. And then the third day, the director said, you've done a better job than anyone else I've ever had in this role. And it's day 3. You're running the federal election. So I ran the security for the 42nd general election in Canada across the country, because we only have like one place that does the voting for everywhere. Unlike in America, where I know that they have multiple groups that have to coordinate, which sounds really tough. And so part of it is always doing a really awesome job. And part of it is actually asking for the thing you really want, because a lot of people don't ask for it. And so once I was being a CISO, they wanted to make me permanent, but I decided being a manager in the federal government specifically wasn't for me. And so I took on a full-time pen testing role because being technical makes me happy. I find computers easier than humans a lot of the time, which probably makes sense considering my background. And so I applied for a job and they said, no, you don't have enough experience. And so then I said, well, I'm going to do a pen test and show you I can. And they're like, we don't care. And so I did a whole pen test and I showed them and they're like, well, I guess that's kind of impressive. And then I was like, watch this. And then I fixed all of the bugs that I found. And they're like, oh, that's really impressive. And then my professional mentor went to meet with them and they were trying to hire him for a contract. And he said, I'm not coming unless Tanya's coming. And the guy's like, what are you talking about? He's like, I'm not coming. I have tons of work. There's like more, like, I don't need to come work here. Hire Tanya, I'm not coming. And the manager was like, oh my gosh, fine. And so I just like kept at him for months until I think it took like 4.5 months to wear him down. I'm like, whoa, I got the job. And so being relentless is it's a thing.
That is amazing.
Thank you.
Okay. You said you had offers to do or present at a conference near Antarctica. Oh my God, penguins.
So I applied to speak at that conference and then I'd said yes, but then COVID complicated a lot of things for me. So yeah, a lot of things got canceled.
There's just so many conferences. We had an entire year of activities and conferences, everything planned, and all of a sudden, poof, just nothing.
Yes, I know. I had to cancel the whole year.
So what was your favorite place to present at a conference? What was your favorite place?
I would say that there's 2 that are a tie and they're part of the same community. So that makes sense. So one is DevSecCon. And so it's like one word like DevSecOps, but DevSecCon. And basically it is a really tiny conference, like only 150 people maybe, or even 100. And it travels around the world. So I could get it when it's like close to me. And basically it only talks about DevSecOps, which is a topic that really interests me, which is kind of like the automation of security testing and security verification. And then the other one is the AppSec series by OWASP. So OWASP is a huge community, which I love and I talk about a lot, like ad nauseum. I'm such a huge fan. And they have an international conference that travels around the world. And then they have chapters, over 300 around the world. So myself and 2 others started the chapter in my city. I used to live in Ottawa and I worked on the chapter there. And so there's local events. So I've spoken at the AppSec conferences, like associated with OWASP, like in Austin, Texas, and Melbourne, Australia. Like, I'm like trying to think of all the places like Ireland, Britain, etc. And so that community, oh my God, they're so nice. So in security, there's kind of red team and blue team, and I realize I'm wearing red, but I am a purple teamer. So that means, so red is offense and it's attacking. And so penetration testers, red teamers, people that do DDoS attacks, security researchers, they all do offensive security. And I don't mean they swear at people, although sometimes they do. And then blue team is defensive. So it's all of like the fixing the code, the patching, the using security tools to block attacks from happening. And because I couldn't make up my mind and I kept doing both, that's how I ended up with purple hair and being called a purple teamer. And so the AppSec conferences are that perfect recipe of both sides where I get to like feed both of my interests. And also the OWASP community is so cuddly friendly when compared to like if you go to a hacker conference, sometimes they can be, well, like they'll hack your phone and other things. If you connect to the internet, they'll like scan swipe your cards when you walk by. Like it's not friendly, some of them. Some of them are really not friendly. And so like, I don't have as much fun if I feel I have to like wrap my credit cards in tinfoil, which I do, but like, I'd rather not feel like I have to be on the defense, if that makes sense. And so OWASP is like, kind of like the Care Bears of security. And so those are my two favorite, DevSecCon and AppSec. So it's called the AppSec conference series, like global AppSec actually. Like they keep kind of changing and adjusting it, but it's hard if you name your conference after your field. Do you know what I mean? Like if you named a conference biochem.
Yeah, that could get easily confusing, so confusing. When you said biochem, I'm like, oh yeah.
Because if you Google search biochem, guess what you're gonna find? You're not gonna find the conference.
No, I don't think so. So do you see a lot of discrimination or any discrimination against women when you're at these conferences or when you're at work?
Yes. So I've worked in tech. So I got my first job in 1997. And I would say that it is greatly improved, but I've also gotten older and fiercer. So I actually also used to be a professional musician and I played in punk rock bands and hardcore bands. And I was a folk singer for a long time. So if you look me up and you see I'm on Spotify, that's why. And I would say that tech is way friendlier than music for women. Definitely like no one has like attempted to lay hands on me. I've never had to like kick someone off a stage. Like I've physically kicked off a person from my stage before in music. I've never had to do that in computers. So that's good. But I would say that there is some discrimination still. And I would say that there are still people that act inappropriate. However, I would say there's way more allies, like men that will say, yo, shut up, dude, to the other person who's being inappropriate. And there's way more women that will also stand up for each other. That's part of WOSEC. We've done a bunch of things to stand up for each other, including one of the chapters, the chapter leader called me and she's like, we have an emergency meltdown situation. And I'm like, what's happening? And one of the students found out that like in that chapter, that at a school, like one of the administrators had sexually assaulted a student. Yeah, and that like was in like sort of an abusive relationship with a student. And then she just like had a panic attack and couldn't go to school and had missed 4 weeks of school or 4 days of school, 4 days. And she's like, I'm dropping out. And so then she spoke to like the WOSEC leader about dropping out and what she could do. And the WOSEC leader is like, no. You shouldn't have to change what you're doing. And so, because I'm famous, I called the school and was like, do you know this is happening? And they're like, no. And so I gave them as many details as I was allowed to give them. And then they wrote me at 1 a.m. that day. And they said, we want you to know we just walked him off school property permanently. The police are involved. We're not allowed telling you more, but we just stripped him of his pension. And I was like, wow. And they're like, we can't tell you anything else because there's a criminal investigation happening. And I was like, okay. And so then she could go back to school and she felt safe. And then all the girls were safe. And like, we can, like when we bind together, we're stronger. And that's part of what WOSEC is. And like when you talk to, especially, I don't mean like older women, usually more experienced women. So like someone that's 30 can have a lot of experience and someone that's 50 can have just switched careers, but quite often it tends to be a woman that's older than you will have more power and can wield it to your advantage if she knows you need her. And we've had a lot of situations like that, like a lot of women saying like, I'm gonna find you a co-op placement. I don't care how many trees I have to shake. Because when we band together, life is just so much better. So yes, there is discrimination, but it's getting better. I also see a question of what's the coolest app you ever cracked?
Yes, 'cause you mentioned you liked building them and then breaking them.
So I'm not allowed to like, I'm under non-disclosure agreements for lots of people. However, I was the penetration tester that tested the Prime Minister's website when it first came out for Canada. That was really cool. And gosh, I messed them up good at first, but then they got better and better. And then it was so funny. I was going to give them a gold star at the end because they did such a good job. They fixed even the super low things and they redesigned parts of it for me. So, because I was like, do you see how this is potentially a problem? And we need to add encryption in this little part here. And they were like, yeah, we're making it secure. And nothing bad has happened to his website, although they have changed it since then quite a bit. But that was exciting. I found a 0-day once, or no, I found a vulnerability in SharePoint that was super fun where they had configured it incorrectly, but such that I could make different links. And then every time the link happened, it would basically like, it would open up inside of the administrator of SharePoint's BlackBerry phone and like explode at him. And so I put pictures of me going like this on his phone and I was like, oh, it's automatically sending you an email. And he's like, oh, and then it would automatically open and then like explode at him. And I was like, ha, 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 ha. And he found that quite humorous because I kept taking different silly screenshots of myself because I am a smartass. Sorry for the language.
Cool. You had mentioned you liked coding and that you are passionate about coding. So
yeah.
So far, of all the apps or all the programs that you've ever created, do you have a favorite?
So that's really hard. So I've done like a lot of .NET because I worked for the federal government for a long time, and then I worked for Microsoft. And so they're all about .NET, both of them. So I feel like I like it the best, but it's probably because I'm the best at it. I have to say that when I learned Perl scripting language, that gave me the most pleasure. I just instantly understood it. I really like scripting. I really like regular expressions because they're so powerful. But yeah, I also love doing apps where I just do the back end and I don't do the front end. I suck at graphical user interfaces. I suck at making things beautiful. And we all have like things we're good at and things we're not good at. I can make a super fast app that like does everything you want it to, and it's super secure, but then it's like ugly. And that's why we have graphic designers and like web designers and stuff, right? Because we all can't be awesome at everything. I also see a question of how many apps have you broken? I don't know, a lot. I wasn't a pen tester that long, maybe like 2 or 3 years. And then I switched into AppSec. And so with AppSec, so as an example, like I run this company where we do training, but I also need to keep my knives sharp and my knowledge sharp. So I still consult. Also, I really like money. And so I consult on the side. So for instance, like last week, me and one of my clients, I was like, let's run a secret scanner on your entire code base. And we just like found passwords and secrets and licenses and all sorts of crap that they shouldn't have had in their code. So did I break the app? No, but did I find serious security vulnerabilities? Yes. Did we have to write lots of reports? The employee did. I'm the consultant. I didn't have to do it. So that was extra awesome. Sorry, Lucas. And like every time I create a DevSecOps pipeline, like I'm adding security tests into it. Every time the build breaks, that's us finding a thing. So like I'm getting better at automating the things. So I guess like theoretically I could be breaking builds all the time. But yeah, I guess I don't do security research though. So I will do like a general test, or I will help you like create a program that makes sure that the apps you're creating are secure. But it's a different job to do a bug bounty or security research where you dig in so deep on a product and find every single thing about it, and usually have like weeks worth of time, where I will have hours or days to test a product. So you look at all the common things and you run a bunch of tools and you do as much as you possibly can in that allotted period of time. A security researcher has as much time as they are willing to spend, like either the company is willing to spend or the researcher is willing to spend. Sometimes they're just fascinated. Like there were some PhDs that found some really interesting stuff as part of their doctoral, I don't know the right word. Can't be. You could say the right word.
Dissertation.
Yes,
or maybe
exactly.
A thesis, yeah.
Yeah.
So I see that we're out of time and we have one final question for you.
Okay.
So
okay.
What's one piece of advice that you would give to all the people that are watching this right now?
I would advise that you consider joining the information security community. So that can mean joining like a Discord channel of people that just do a certain thing you're interested in. That can mean joining Twitter and then following people that say things that interest you. It can mean once COVID is over and we're safe again, it can mean going to a meetup once a month. So for an in-person event, if you are under 18 years old, you should probably rate them and tell them you're coming and make sure you have your parents' permission. I had, a 16-year-old girl come to one of my workshops and she's like, my parents are in CC and they said I can go. Will there be other adults there and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah. And so we made sure she was okay. And like, she got back home at the right time. And do you know what I mean? Like when someone under 18 comes though, you want to make sure that their parents are cool with it. And so if you can let them know that that's okay, they'll probably be so excited a teenager showed up. They'll be like, yes, look at us. Maybe they think we're cool. We know that you think we're not cool. It's okay.
Oh, good. That's so many wonderful things that you said today. And I think that just so much excitement for these young students as they're going forward, trying to figure out what they want to be. And you did say one thing a while ago that really just caught my attention, of asking for what you really want. So I do encourage all of the students to just ask for what they really want. I am going to launch a poll though for all of our attendees to fill out. It's the same one you get every week. So if you've been with us before, please still fill it out because it helps us know who's joining us each week. Also, we are going on a break for the holidays. So Tanya is our final speaker of the 2020 year, and we will be back in January with more speakers. So please be sure to go to our website at cyber.org to find the schedule of our upcoming speakers. It's not on there yet, but it will be soon. You also follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can watch this conversation as soon as we post it by Friday, and all of our previously recorded conversations, as well as all of the videos that we offer on there. They are free. And if you are a high school student, we do have our virtual high school camp that you can sign up for now on our website. Space is limited, and there is a registration, an application to fill out with that, since we are limited in space. But it is free, and it's put on by the National Security Association or agency, and we hope you'll join us. Thank you so much, Tanya, for just joining us today, being a part of our speakers, and we wish everybody a happy holidays, and we'll see you in 2021.